There was a rabbit, and I had Amanda hold on to the dog. Dog saw a rabbit, and she jumped and almost pulled my daughter through the window, which would have been really funny. You know, assuming everybody lived. Great story.
But one of the other things that Mirame has learned to do is as they're walking along the sidewalk, the dog knows not only how to watch for curves and things, but watch for people backing out of their garages really fast, not looking or pulling in, and he will get in front and block Paul from moving forwards to protect him from crazy drivers too, among other things.
They're good medically too. I mean, Paul suffers from seizures, and the dog can tell when he's prone to seizures or going to stroke, and will get attention. You know, there are some dogs that they have for diabetics, because your breath changes when your insulin changes. And usually they're little dogs, because you don't want a dog this size climbing up on your lap to sniff your breath. Not more than once. But Mirame has caught Paul just pre-stroke and got somebody's attention before he's well-coated.
Akitas are used in Japan at some of the hospitals still, because they are tremendous therapy animals, as well as that sensitivity to seizure and stroke activity, and alerting people that something is wrong, even if it doesn't seem like it yet. As far as that's a common thing. Besides, they are still used for hunting today.
They hunt Akitas?
No, Akitas hunt other things.
Oh,
and
he hunts that one.
He hunts beef jerky.
He's good at that.
This is true. But you also have, with that ability to track and hunt and their agility, they are tremendous search and rescue animals. They're very commonly used in earthquake situations because they're good at navigating loose rubble and still finding people. But those are kind of their most common uses today. Now, one of the things that a lot of people will say when they see these guys, number one, is I've never seen an Akita that color. Her coloring, the brindle, the striped coloration, that's solid-bodied like that is about 1 in 500 for the breed. The most common colorations you're going to see are either a solid white or what's considered a pinto. Lots of white on the body and splotches of color, whether it's in random sections or even, kind of like a husky. That splotched coloration is very common. And you'll get the pintos with a lot of white on the body, and brindles, and reds, and blacks, and fawns, pretty much any color you can think of with those splotches. One of the ways you know it's an Akita and not a husky mix is you will never see an Akita with blue eyes. They will always be brown, as well as if you take a closer look at the head, you'll have that wider skull and the muzzle that's narrower. Shepherds and huskies both actually have, I believe it's called an aquiline nose, where it comes down evenly from the sides of the head. It does not scoop in and then come forwards. And that's a Spitz characteristic. Again, back to that body type. Yep. He says, you guys are out of beef jerky. What?
Did you talk about his coloration?
No, we'll get to him. The solid-bodied red that he is with the black tipping is about 1 in 5,000. It is one of the most recessive colorations for an Akita. It's very common in the Shiba Inus, the small Japanese dogs, but it is not common at all in the Akitas, except for in the small section of the Midwest where we're at, because he has thrown true to his color.
And he's a stud. Well, I mean, in the truest sense of the word, he's a stud dog. We don't raise and breed them anymore because it's too much hassle. I mean, it's too frustrating.
Because Dan cries when every puppy goes
I don't want to sell them. And most of the people that want to buy the dogs, I wouldn't trust with our dogs. They're not wind-up toys.
No.
But we were going to sell all of them, the first litter, and this one, my son started calling Little Fatso around the house because he was so pudgy and he pushed his 3 litter mates out of the way for food all the time and would yowl and shriek if you stopped him from eating. That part hasn't changed, you notice that. So my son called him Little Fatso, and like, we're not labeling the dog, he's going to have a complex. So we named him Kuma, and if you name something, it's yours. so he's ours. It was afterwards that we found out that for akitas being colored like that, 1 in 5,000, somebody offered us $3,500 for him.
That's a 10-week-old puppy.
And was mad when we wouldn't sell him. I mean, angry, in our face, I've got cash. And my wife's like, my husband's right there. And he's a martial arts instructor and he's armed. You should be more respectful.
Yeah, that guy stalked. We were actually camping at a Renaissance
Oh, yeah,
festival
we were
that
afraid he was
weekend,
going to steal dogs.
and the puppy stayed in one family member or student's hands at all times throughout the entire weekend, because we were afraid the guy would break into our tent to take the dog if we left him there. Even with the 2 adults to guard, it's like, no.
Her guard?
Yeah.
Look at that. She doesn't even guard the food dish anymore because she knows we'll bring her more.
And she's a snot. If she deems that her dog food is not good enough, she will flip the bowl down the stairs.
And then look at you. Like, now pick it up. Do it right this time. Oh, I was just going to say it's like every other female. Oh yeah, I'm going to go hide behind you. That's not going to help.
Akitas actually have a lot of feline characteristics, not just with the attitudes, but they are also, they have an extra vertebrae actually in their shoulders that allows them to scoop with their legs and wrap with their front paws, much like a cat does. But it also means that they are much bendier than other dog breeds.
There's a story behind this one.
We had just gotten her. She was like 6 months old, and she used to wrestle and fight. It was awesome. If I put on a long sleeve shirt, that was her cue that it was okay to bite. So if I put all my sweatshirts now have holes in them. I don't have any dress, the nice sweatshirts, because we live in Iowa, it gets cold. I don't have any sweatshirts because she fights with me when I put them on. But the first time she left,
and I had warned him.
Be nice to the dog, do not antagonize her. I'm like, we'll be fine, don't worry about it. And I started wrestling with her, and I'm like, it's a dog. You know how you stop a dog? You grab it by the back of the neck.
When they get out of
Pin
control.
it to the floor. It's not that difficult, folks. I grabbed the back of her neck, and she turned her head and clamped onto my arm, literally from right here. I have no idea how she did. I froze. I thought I broke her. I called her on my cell phone and said, something's wrong with the dog! She's about the same size, too.
We play this game for a while.
Now the bad part is, he'll stay by your side. He doesn't need leashed. If you walk around and go out in public, he'll stay right by you. If she escapes from the backyard, it's kind of like a husky. They'll take off constantly. Even if they love you and they want to be there, they'll still bolt. She does that too. Kuma will knock her down. He'll chase her and catch her for mom and sit on her. And I didn't believe it because that sounded like too funny a story. It's like, yeah, you made that up. And we were unloading mats from the back of our truck, putting them in the shed. We teach martial arts. We got these big, heavy floor mats. We're putting them in the shed. We had the gate open to the backyard to get in the shed. And she went under the truck and took off for a park that's about a mile down the road from our house. And Jill went, Naya, no! And she took off, and Jill said, Kuma! And he bolted under the truck and bowled her over, came back and sat on her, and then just looked like she's right here. I'm like, that is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Can't you get him to retrieve?
He will only chase and sit on.
Which limits his ability to, I would totally get a little lever, because some like labs, I know there's people in wheelchairs have service dogs that they'll install a lever for their refrigerator because they can teach the dog to get them a soda. And if I could teach our dogs to do that, your days are limited.
Yeah, but then you'd have to cook for yourself and you'd starve.
I would. I'll be writing and she'll leave in the morning and she'll come back 13 hours later and I'm still sitting at the computer whimpering because I haven't had anything to eat all day. She's like, I made you food. It's in the refrigerator. It's even labeled. I'm like, I know. Didn't you get up? Well, I don't remember.
You know that Hardee's commercial that without us some men would starve? That hit a little too close to home.
I was actually a restaurant manager for a year. I know how to cook. I just don't. Because now I'm helpless. You'd think that would garner sympathy. It never does. Mostly because I say things like, if he could retrieve your days or nothing, now everybody's going, can we do another stage show where you hit him on the head?
Yes.
Did anybody notice in our stage show, I wear a head wrap? In Japanese, the term is hachimachi. It means, literally, imaginatively enough, head wrap. And it was something the samurai wore under their helmet, the kabuto. And most people assume I wear that because I'm bald and I'm trying to hide it. But that's not why. I do wear it because I'm bald, but that's because at one part of the show when I block, and she says, hit me back, and I pull the sword out of the way and go, you got it back, and the sword's still over my head. And everybody laughs and goes, oh yeah, you're teaching him, but we should have moved. Her job in the show is to hold her blade steady. Sometimes my big mouth gets me in enough trouble that she decides it's not worth holding still. And there have been 2 shows where I pulled the blade out of the way and she's hit me on top of the head with that metal sword. And have anybody ever had a scalp wound before? They don't hurt very much, but they bleed like crazy and they don't stop. So I'm on stage with both hands wrapped around the sword and she hits me. It doesn't hurt, but all of a sudden... and there's blood dripping off my nose and we're nowhere near done with the show.
You will never know if I was paid off or not.
That frightens me because we have another show next weekend. So we had to finish the show, and when we got done, we were doing autographs and talking to people, and this girl comes and goes, I saw your show last year and you didn't have special effects in it. That's really cool. How do you do that? I'm like, it's not as complicated as you think. It's just red food dye and corn syrup. Here, try it. And she's like, no! My wife's over there going, and I'm going, thank God, because our insurance carrier would never understand that. You got your attendees to ingest your blood? It was an after hour, no. So I wear the head wrap just because if she does hit me on the head, it usually doesn't end up bleeding. Although you did tear my kimono a couple times because she does it around and then saws at my neck. She snagged my uniform once. Because you're mean to me. For no reason.
They're married. That's all the reason she needs.
Don't know. Alright, do we have questions about the puppies?
Alright, health problems. What type of health problems do Akita normally have?
Akitas are, just like a lot of other large breed dogs, prone to hip and elbow dysplasia problems. With a lot of the breeding stock that came to the U.S. in the 70s, those dogs, a lot of them were not the best examples of the breed because the Japanese decided that they could sell the animals that they didn't want to continue breeding that were the best examples, that they could sell those animals that normally would have been put down to desperate Americans for $5,000 apiece. And unfortunately, that's a lot of the breeding stock that was in this country. They weren't bad dogs, but they weren't the most genetically sound and the best examples of the breed. And unfortunately, a lot of times what that means is they're more prone to some of the genetic issues with the elbow dysplasia and hip dysplasia. A lot of people know that word, but they don't actually understand what dysplasia is. A dog's hip joint fits over the ball, the head of the femur, just like in our hip. And a normal hip joint, that joint sits over the top of the ball, so it sits inside the socket. Hip dysplasia is when usually half or less of the ball joint actually is sitting inside the socket. That socket does not form fully around the head of the femur. And so the only thing holding the femur into the hip is the little tendons and ligaments. And that's why it's degenerative and painful, because it's supposed to be bone that fully circles that and helps support the joint on an active dog that runs around. And if it's not supporting and it's just all those tendons and ligaments, usually by about 2 or 3 years old, you'll have a dog that's crippled itself by those little tendons just not being able to hold, and that's kind of debunking some of the magical myths behind this hip dysplasia thing. That's all it is it's not quite a good formation of the bone, and so that's something a Akitas are prone to, just like almost every other large breed dog, because they grow quickly and they need a steady, healthy diet as a puppy for that bone formation. And if they grow too quickly, a lot of times that can cause hip dysplasia, even if it's not genetic. So,
and this is the problem with puppy mills, because they will feed their puppies enhanced food to get them to grow faster so they can go to homes earlier, and they develop more health problems later on.
Too much protein, not enough calcium, and other things that help that bone growth versus just muscle growth.
We discovered that by accident once, because my wife is the only person on the planet who unintentionally could kill a snapping turtle. I found a baby snapping turtle. It was literally the size of a quarter. We took when I was out walking her, and it was in the middle of the road, so it would have got run over. So I took it home and thought maybe Jill would want to keep it as a pet for a little while. And so we got in a tank, and she fed it every day, and it grew, and it was happy, and it was getting bigger and bigger, and one day it was just dead. How do you kill a I had snapping turtles on a farm that we caught in muskrat traps around its neck, underwater for a day before we pulled it. That sucker was still alive. She killed one because she fed it too much fish and it grew too fast, faster than its shell would. She killed it with kindness.
Baby turtles are only supposed to eat roots and tubers and things, not fish.
We didn't know that.
He had a very happy short life.
Wow, really? All right, other questions that maybe I can't turn into a discussion on reptile destruction. Yes, sir.
Progression?
Aggression. Yes and no. These are dominant. They're a dominant dog breed. If you've noticed, these two walking around and eating are not aggressive. They're comfortable. They're relaxed. But we work with them. One of the biggest, if you want to call it a myth, is that certain big dog breeds are more aggressive and therefore they're not safe. Statistically speaking, the most dangerous dog breeds for biting, what was the top 5? Chihuahuas, Yorkies, miniature poodles, I think
miniature
were on that
poodles,
list.
rat terriers, and...
But do you know why nobody's banning them? Doesn't hurt! I mean, I delivered pizza and I had a miniature poodle latch onto my leg, and this old lady was just terrified that I was going to turn her dog in and have it put down. Like, ma'am, I'm not telling anybody your dog bit me. But Akitas end up, they do get thrown into a category with Rottweilers and pit bulls. And there's a big push right now to kind of reclaim pit bulls as not being a dangerous animal. And they show all the pictures of pit bulls and little kids all lovey with each other. And these dogs are amazingly lovey and sweet and wonderful with their family. And any Akita is that way. But if they're not socialized, they can be difficult with other dogs and not as friendly with people. We have 2 of them. She doesn't like other dogs very much at all. He's fine with every other dog on the planet unless the dog hackles and growls at her. And then he flattens Great Danes twice his size. And it's awful. Because that happened and the owner was like, "Oh my God, you're killing my dog!" And he's not doing anything. Yeah, he loves dogs, but he doesn't like people as much. So if you notice, when I tend to follow him and just, because he will not attack you, but if you get in his face and growl at him, he might. Duh. If you get in my face and growl, I might smack you too. No, I would never do that. Not after the last time.
There is some truth with any dog breed. If you have a dog that is, even if it's picture perfect for the breed, if it has an absolute attitude problem, some of that is genetic. Just like with people with anger management issues. We can all say Goose Fraba, and sing him.
Sorry, she's the dangerous one, and I know that because she's the only person in the room that has never spoken. There's a lot of pent-up aggression and hostility there.
But there is some genetic truth on the breeding side as far as an aggressive, naturally aggressive dog usually is not the one you want to breed. And there is some of that within the Akita line. That's something, if you go to a breeder to pick out a puppy, you want to meet the parents of the dog. because if the owners can't even handle it because it will chew their arms off, don't get the puppy for your family pet.
Hey, careful on the chewing the arms part.
Well, you instigated that with the sweatshirts.
With it, akitas are also, they're really, really affectionate. So the way they hug is with their mouth. They mouth on you. We have a split level foyer, so when you get home, you open the front door, there's stairs going up to the living room and then downstairs to the... He will meet me on the stairs and hold out a paw. We have to shake and he started that. But then once we get there, he'll come down the rest of the stairs, grab onto my arm, and drag me upstairs. And the longer we're gone, the more enthusiastic he is. So I actually have scars, I guess, by this point, on my arms from him dragging me up and down the stairs. And when we have somebody stay at our house for the weekend to watch the dogs, the first time my son's girlfriend stayed, she had a big air mattress in the living room. And he loves her, but she fell asleep and she had her arm off the edge of the couch, or the mattress. And at 7:30 in the morning, she wasn't ready to get up, and he was.
And he didn't go outside.
And he drugged her completely off the mattress. On her arm. Come on, time to go. And the next thing she knew, she was being woke up by being flipped off the air mattress onto the floor. And she had that brief panic going, who's going to eat me?
That kind of leading thing is notorious for the akitas, too. A lot of times if there's someone in your home that they don't think should be there, they won't necessarily attack them, but they will take them and lead them out the front door.
Or at least off the couch.
Off the couch. When he was 10 months old, we had some people there to look at another litter of puppies, and they wanted to meet the parents. I'm like, well, we have one of the older brothers too, so we let them in. They came boiling upstairs and came running around the corner of that love seat with its back to the stairs. The two adults came in and just looked at him. Kuma got to the side of the couch, stopped, and looked, and poof, but didn't hackle. He just came up on full alert, like, you aren't supposed to be here. And we all just kind of that one long pause, and then he sprung up on the love seat and shoulder checked the guy onto the floor and just looked at him like, yeah, you don't belong on this couch.
And I'm going, oh no. We just lost the sale, gained a lawsuit, lost a dog. And he stayed on the ground laughing his butt off, and he goes, if I get one of the puppies, will he do that too?
But they were known as very good nursemaids also for children if they're raised and they understand that the squeaking and the squealing and the hair pulling is normal for 2- and 3-year-olds. And 5 and 6 and 7, basically that whole range of loud children.
20.
And what would happen is they would keep the child
my hair pulled very seldom now.
corralled, like within your yard. If you had a water feature or other things, the dogs were good at guiding children away from it or pulling them away from it. Or if neighbor kids came over and they get rougher with your child, a lot of times the dog won't go into instant attack mode, but they will separate them and keep the child at the edge of your property.
They really were used in feudal Japan as nannies. They would babysit the kids.
But with the aggression thing, the last thing I mentioned earlier that we'd come back to the training side with a large dominant dog breed, works with small ones too. With an Akita, the best success you're going to have in training is working with something that is called dominance training. It is a means with a dog that it understands. It's how a dog will relate to other pack members, other animals of its species, which is when they're getting out of control, whether that's biting and playing too hard, shredding your sweatshirt, whether that's shoving people onto the floor that they're not supposed to off the couches, whether that's tearing into the garbage, whether that's growling when you've told them, no, stand down, it's not a situation to continue. What you do, for starters, is that grabbing them by the back of the neck, and hi, look, I have a demo model. Grabbing them by the neck and pushing them to the ground and saying, no, in a firm, strong voice. Now, if they still continue to growl or fight back, no biting, but that is the case also. That's a case where you actually have to go into what is called a full submittal. When you submit a dog, that is putting it upside down on its back where it is helpless. That is a position as a dog that they cannot fight from. It means that they are giving in
Different than a
to
cat.
you. Yeah.
A cat on his back can still fight.
It's
That's
got
really-
5 pointy ends that way. Don't do that. You're safe.
For canines, this is the submissive position.
This is true, and you rub their back. You out. But with the dog, when you originally flip them over, they may start growling. You have to keep them pinned there until they relax their body posture and break eye contact. Kuma, oide. Kuma, Toby. Good boy. Kuma.
He's like, oh, do we have to do this part of the show?
Kose. He's like, I know this game. All right, look at me. And this broken eye contact, relaxed body posture is a submittal. And this is the worst thing you can possibly ask an akita to do in public, because this is absolutely saying, yes, Mom, you're in charge. I'm not going to guard you from all of these people. This took about 3 years to get him to the point that he'd do without fighting me. Okay, what are you
And the reason why he's snorting, that's a sign of displeasure for a dog, the snort, the sneeze. He's not snorting because he's in that position in front of you. It's because she will get right in his face and be all perky and like,
and taunt him.
look where you're at. I'm not.
You're not in trouble. It's okay. You know. But
Look at him.
that's.
He's like, okay, I usually get a treat.
I don't have any more. You ate all of them.
Well, I may have helped.
And the bagels. But that, with repetitive training, with any dog breed that's being snarky and obnoxious.
Snarky, really?
And it is, and snarky turns into mean. It really does. It is.
Sorry, you said snarky and I went back to Sharknado.
But that's something with that dominance training that'll tremendously help you with any aggression issues or training issues.
One more quick question, and then we're going to let him set up for closing ceremony, which starts in 6 minutes. Yes, sir. You.
Life expectancy of the dogs.
Depends on how well they mind. Yo,
Life expectancy is usually anywhere from 9 to 15 years. It's a big range. Larger dog breeds typically don't live as long. They've proven that just with the larger body, the heart has to work a little harder. But you'll have kind of that range. Her mother lived to 14, or almost 14, and her father lived to 13. So her bloodline's a little longer.
and she's 8 and she's in perfect health.
She's almost 9.
I mean,
About a month and a
she's
half.
lazy and will jump up on the. She's been doing that since she was 2. She'll still romp and tear, but she won't jump into things or out of things. I've had to pick her up and put her in the car since she was 2. Because she just comes up, stops, and looks at me, Dad, and I'm dumb enough to do it.
She's perfectly capable and healthy at age 9, and that's his father. His bloodline, most of them are kind of a 10 to 12 range, but usually people, if there's known issues with parentage and stuff, living shorter, they won't breed them. So
All right, fine, you have your hand up. Ask. Go ahead.
What's the price range between them?
They're not for sale.
Well, no, I mean in general.
You can't have them. No.
I'm not asking about these two.
in general, most Akita puppies, if you're looking for a pet, you're looking anywhere from $500 or $600 up to about $1,200. Depends on the bloodlines, how many champions, whether they're certified AKC or not, etc., etc. Most breeders will sell to you for a pet contract where you agree to spay or neuter and not breed. If you're looking for a show animal that's fully certified and with breeding privileges, you usually start about the $1,500 on up, dependent upon the coloration, a number of other things. This is the point at which I usually throw out, just like every other dog breed in existence, there are Akitas in shelters, even purebred ones. There are some tremendous rescues. One of the best in the country is in southern Wisconsin, about an hour and a half north of Chicago. That's the Wisconsin Akita and Friends Rescue. They rescue Akitas from all over the country and will have people basically kind of, I can take the dog for this 3 hours across my state if someone can help me get it here, and they will get dogs brought out to them from all over the country that they have a good network when they have room, finding animals that are like owner surrendered because they lost their apartment or different things where there's nothing at all considered wrong with these dogs. They're not aggressive. They're very sweet. circumstances sometimes happen, and they do a really good job screening their animals, and so it's always you want to go meet them.
If you're going to start with a puppy, though, sometimes you pay a lot more for that AKC registered and surf certified, those things for the hips and just, it's worth that. Okay, don't buy them from just somebody who's got them on the street corner and they haven't been checked for things, or the parents haven't been, because there are health concerns, especially with big dog breeds, and you don't want to give your heart to an animal that you're going to have in your life for 10 to 15 years and be a member of the family and have them have big health issues. So do a little bit of research and ask them about certification. Canine registry too.
And then OFA, the Orthopedic
those are big.
Foundation.
And for anybody interested, if you have questions that you think about later, if you're interested in a dog or just want some help in finding one, like us on Facebook. Okay, I don't make a big deal about during our shows, hey, follow Samurai Dan and Jillian. If you want information about the dogs and stuff, this is a huge passion of hers. And we visit these rescue places and stuff in Texas and Wisconsin and stuff. Like it, just go on Facebook, find us Samurai Dan and Jillian, like us on that, and ask questions. I have no life outside of being on stage sometimes and then hiding otherwise. So I'll be up at 3 o'clock in the morning and answering text messages and emails and stuff. And she can help with all of that. Even to being able to find breeders, because we don't breed them anymore. For a while we had 2 breeding pairs, and females in the same household tend to run their cycles together inevitably. So at one time we had 4 adult Akitas and 18 puppies. And I mentioned that we have a split level foyer, so to go outside the dogs had to go up 2 flights of stairs or down. And there is nothing as cute and yet terrifying as sitting down at the couch with supper and hearing the door open downstairs because she calls the puppies in, and 72 paws come rushing up the stairs, boiling at you and your hamburger.
And you know, with one puppy, you can usually stop the whole like leaping on top of you and piling on you thing. With 18, it doesn't work.
With 22, you're out of your league. All right, you guys have been absolutely amazing. If you have other questions and stuff, when closing ceremonies are over, we're easy to find. I'm freakishly tall, and she usually has cute fuzzy things. With closing ceremonies coming up in the next couple of minutes, you guys have been fabulous. Please stick around so the con can say thank you for being here. I'm saying it right now just because you put up with me most of the weekend. Some of you look like you haven't left any of the panels we've been in. I'm really sorry about that. I doubt you can get your money back, but send me your therapy bills. No, just kidding. We'll send you dog treats. It's cheaper than therapy. All right, you guys have been awesome. Thank you very much.